Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. It's now time to review newspaper headlines, and of course we're starting with This Day, our newspaper of record. On the front pages today, we have, with increased macroeconomic stability, total value of stocks, other instruments on NGX hit 149.7 trillion naira. That is the story above the masthead. And then, of course, we also have Tinubu Idris hails Super Eagles for winning AFCON 2025 bronze in Morocco. And to be reviewing the newspaper with us is Ombudsman of This Day and Arise Media Group and This Day Newspaper Limited Group Executive Director, Mr. Kayode Komolafe. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.
Good morning.
Good morning, Newsday on Morning Show. Well, let's go to the big story, of course. On the front page of This Day, we have Governor Yusuf's demand for automatic ticket delays defection to APC. Kano governor on his way to join APC at the right time, says ruling party. Mr. Komolafe.
Yeah, but before going to the defection affairs, we should not forget to say congratulations, to
the Super
Eagles. I'm wearing my Super Eagles green today.
Great.
Anyone notice?
You're a great patriot.
Yes.
We should say congratulations to our guys. And already the president and other notable figures have also congratulated them. We had hope we'll get to the final, but then we should be happy, for what we have.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Then also, before also getting to the major story, the lead story of This Day on Sunday. It's already mentioned in some papers, although it's not on the front page of This Day, but I think on the front page of Tribune and others, that today is the 93rd birthday of the statesman, Chief Emeka Anyaoku, the accomplished diplomat, and a quintessential statesman, for many years when he was in the Commonwealth. He did us proud and rose, to the level of the Secretary General of that administration. And since his retirement, he's been here with us in Nigeria at home, and he's been very much involved, in national affairs, especially, the advocacy, for true federalism, he's been very consistent, unequivocal, and with a lot of clarity of purpose in making this. So I reckon that it will be very much in order to say happy birthday to Chief Emeka Anyaoku.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
And to the lead story of This Day on Sunday, I think with the story of the proposed or the expected defection of Governor Yusuf of Kano to APC. But it may be relevant to put the old ferment of defection, in its proper context. In the first place, contrary to what is there, in terms of popular imagination, it is not him. That is what the current ferment we're having about defection, mainly to APC, which is the ruling party. It is not unprecedented, and there is nothing strange in it. Because people often forget now that since the beginning of this dispensation, since 1999, the first beneficiary of defection was actually the People's Democratic Party, which was then the biggest party, the ruling party. And that was when, way back, then two senators of Alliance for Democracy, AD, defected, from AD, to a PDP, and since then there have been a lot of defection, exactly.
Left and right.
Thank you for that use of that category. When I say it's not unprecedented, that even in the earlier republics, both in the Second Republic and First Republic, you had, for example, in the First Republic, it was called cross-carpeting, And in the Second Republic too, there are also defections, from MPP to MPN, defections, from PRP, to MPP to MPN and the rest. So there's nothing, there. And if you will, that it is not also peculiar to Nigeria.
True.
In recent times, in British politics, to date, about 18 parliamentarians, are defected, to the Reform Party, from Labour, from Conservative parties, The latest was a generic, who was defected. In fact, the first to defect a few months ago was Lee Anderson, who is interestingly earlier defected from Labour Party to the Conservative Party, and now recently defected to the Reform Party, So what I'm saying is, this whole bogey around it, it's not him. Just the way of
it's the manner in which it's being conducted, the frequency.
But then isn't it strange, really, that the APC would be foot dragging on granting him an automatic ticket? For instance, what then does the governor gain to? What does the governor stand to gain if it defects to the APC if it doesn't get the automatic ticket?
Exactly.
That is the nature of politics. When politicians play their game, because of they do it in pursuit of their interest, and in the course of this pursuit, of course you have negotiations, what will come to it. All I think we should insist upon is that it should be within the ambit of the law, because for instance, if the law says that if you defect, if the position you defect and you are you are elected to a position on the platform of a party, that you could not transfer the mandate got on the platform of a party to another party, then that law should be complied with. Otherwise, I don't see what is wrong with it. And I also say that it is also wrong to say that because of defection that then Nigeria is moving towards one party state. You cannot talk of a country in which 18 parties are registered by law, to participate in politics, So you cannot say in that country that there is any threat of one party, because what it means that, any of those 18, any of the other 17 parties registered in law, apart from the ruling party, they all have the same rights, the same privileges, to participate in politics like the ruling party,
But different.
And in any case, of course, that is the nature of that is the politics. That's why you say multi-party democracy is a competitive,
sport.
It's a sport exactly. So the thing is for the parties to muster the necessary organizational capacity, to participate, in the process, So you cannot, in countries where you have one party state, it is a matter of law, In fact, you cannot say that you have a party registered and playing politics in a one-party state, So if you have 18 registered political parties and they are in any case, with the recent development that you now even have a ADC and a PDP, being reorganized. So to me, it's totally, some sort of exaggeration, to say that we are moving towards a one-party state. Yeah.
All right, so it's time now to review This Day Style. Hawa?
Oh, right. So on the cover of This Day Style, very pretty, Nigeria Governor Spouses Forum, advancing advocacy. So we have the wives of our very distinguished governors on the cover. Obviously, there's a very good interview of all of them within the pages of This Day Style. We have the First Lady of Kwara State. Actually, the Nigeria Governor Spouses Forum operates as a collective advocacy platform for the First Ladies of Nigeria's 36 states. It's chaired by Ambassador Professor Olufalake Abdul Razak, who is the First Lady of Kwara State. The forum provides a unified space for governor spouses to mobilize attention, resources, and partnership around issues affecting women, youth, and children. And, you know, this is very important. The rights of women, youth, and children often get overlooked when we have all these discussions of the polity. So it's quite heartening to see that the governor's wives have been charged with helming the affairs, and they're being recognized on the cover of the Style, and they're all very nicely clad in orange. It's very pretty art direction, and you know, these are the kinds of things we like to hear. You know, they're not elected, but they are still, you know, providing a service to the country, and you know, women should be proud, right?
I agree with you.
Thank you.
The topicality of the cover, you know, is not in doubt, and I think this day Style editor should be commended, you know, for it, you know, and also that the First Ladies also should be commended, you know, having, you know, assigned themselves the task of, you know, advocacy, you know, for public good, you know. I think that makes them to be relevant, you know, in the process. So it's
definitely relevant and appreciated.
Yeah.
So from this day, let's move to the Sunday Vanguard. And on the headlines today for the Sunday Vanguard, we have Nigeria won civil war but didn't know how to win peace. That's Femi Fani-Kayode. He says why people give more attention. Femi Fani-Kayode says why people give more information to Boko Haram than to the federal government. January 15, 1966, I was a witness to a morning of carnage. The General Alabi Isiama interview on coups, Biafra, insecurity. Nigeria won civil war but didn't know how to win peace. Of course, also on the front page, we have Fubara Wike meet peace panel as Rivers lawmakers give condition to halt impeachment. APC asks CJ to obey court order. Of course, as Super Eagles, they've done us proud. Tinubu to Super Eagles, thank you. Your bronze medal feels good, just like gold. Another story there, truce with bandits or time bomb. Kano, other states will be in big trouble if. That's Kofi Katsina Elder giving that warning. Kwankwanso Yusuf camps clash. Governors plant defection to APC. Splits Kano. Anticipate renewed drive for national prosperity. Ojulari GCU NNPC Limited. Mr. Komolafe, which of these stories would you like to review?
Okay, perhaps we'll check the Fani-Kayode quote, yes, the story, because actually we are in the season of anniversary, you know, because this month, you know, is exactly 60 years that we had the first coup, you know, and then, which was the beginning of, you know, chains of events, you know, that led, you know, to the 30 months civil war. Yeah, I think one thing that should be emphasized, you know, as we mark the anniversary, you know, of January 15, you know, every year, which now is also the remembrance day, you know, this whole season, is that, yes, the Civil War, you know, on the Civil War, I mean, you have already a whole gamut, you know, of literature, you know, a lot has been written from participants, you know, observers, you know, survivors, and the rest. But it is interesting that the story is still being told, you know, from as many perspectives, you know, as you could imagine, you know, because only last week, you know, a part of the story was told, you know, in a book that was launched, you know, by a Nadeko chieftain, Shipa Yopadokun. The title of his own book is The Gun Hegemony. You know, which is his own, you know, critique, you know, of the whole thing about military, you know, intervention in Nigerian politics, and his conclusion is that Nigeria, you know, more or less has, you know, has been under the hegemony of the gun, you know, of military rule, you know, and of course he touched on the events of January 15, which Chief Fanika, is talking about. I think that the January 15, poses, a problematic, in Nigeria history, and I think that more perspectives, should be welcome, in trying not just only to tell, the story, of what happened. That is, history in providing the primary, sources of material, but also, bringing, the necessary rigor to the interpretation of what actually happened, But then we are still dealing with even with the facts, of what happened, and this information. Because, for instance, in Chief Opadokun's book, it's interesting that, according to him, that for the first time in that book, it is now being published, the E-branch report of the event of that day. The E-branch then was the secret arm, of the police, that wrote a report that till date, that until the publication of his book, that nobody actually got what actually the security report, from the police and of what actually happened. That is published in that book, and that you have it. And of course, when you see either rejoinders, more or less, if you could, call it, as such, to what a book, written by a particular actor or about a particular actor, to others, discover that you have, a lot of, controversy, still surrounding, what happened, Because, for instance, in this story, mention is made of Alabi Isama, who was also a combatant, in that Alabi Isama's own preoccupation is to negate what General Olusegun Obasanjo, his own version of the story, So I'm just trying to, demonstrate the fact that, the clash of perspectives, on what happened, about the civil war, about military intervention, continues, and that should be expected, given the momentous nature of what happened in history.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, should I move on to the Punch newspaper? Sunday Punch, big headline, Obasanjo shuns Atiku drives Obi Kwankwaso's ticket against Tinubu. Of course, this will be discussed a lot. Ex-vice president not threatened by move, says aide. ADC leader kick as Obi's camp pushes for zoning. We have another one to the top right. Nigeria's crude oil purchases from U.S. rise to 42 million barrels. And of course, the Eagles edge the Pharaohs to clinch the 9th AFCON bronze, which we discussed earlier, and we will continue discussing for as long as we can to keep our national pride afloat. Yeah. This one caught my eye, and I'm sure it's going to catch the eyes of quite a few individuals. It is wedding bells as Matawale's 9 sons and daughters to wed same day in Abuja. Yeah, the headline is a little bit misleading, so we dug a little bit deeper into page 5, and it's actually the governor has 9 sons, sons and daughters. They will be getting married all on the same day. I'm sure that's every parent's wish who has children, well, more than 5 children plus, because you don't have to pay for 9 weddings. You just have to pay for 1, and everyone just arranges themselves, and holy matrimony done and sealed. What do you think about that?
So what can we say? That to say that happy
marriage life.
Yes.
To all 9 of them.
To all 9
on the same day. That's great.
Happy matrimony. Yeah.
Yeah.
But quickly, if you permit,
yes.
Or maybe just perhaps as a further response to the question Temitope posed about that, while the bottlenecks in the Governor Yusuf moving to ADC, that to APC, that while the tidiness. Now, on the front page of the Punch, you have there that former President Obasanjo is pushing for an Obi Kwankwaso ticket, in which case Obi will be the presidential candidate and Kwankwaso will be the running.
The machinations have begun.
Exactly. Now, it's interesting that the same Kwankwaso, is reported. I mean, it's been in the news, last week, that was already negotiating with APC. That it was giving conditions. If you remember.
You remember this?
Exactly.
Yes, we discussed it. Yeah.
So that's why I say that the whole thing is just a ferment, and that people should not really lose their head about
Okay.
So on the one hand, Obasanjo wants Obi and Kwankwaso to run on the same ticket of ADC, but the same Kwankwaso is giving conditions for APC for him to become a member of APC. So I think by the time the primaries begin, the coast will be clear, as they say. Yeah.
We're watching.
So moving on from the Punch, let's move to the Sunday Tribune. On the headlines, we have Emeka Anyaoku celebrating the master diplomat at 93. We spoke about that earlier. Happy birthday, Sir Emeka Anyaoku. We are reviewing the Sunday Tribune right now. Also on the front page, we have internal crisis forces PDP to seek funding from members, plans 10,000 naira contribution per person. I mean, Mr. Komolafe, how sad really that the PDP right now seems to be looking for funding and is actually taxing its members to be making 10,000 naira. But we'll come to that later.
That's that war chest I was talking about.
Now, still on the front page, the big story, horror in Kano. Gunmen kill mother, her 6 children. Community in shock, police launch investigation. Gunmen kill man, 2 women, injure 1-year-old child in Plateau. Also on the front page, Makinde assures Ogbomoso zone of more projects, reaffirms commitment to inclusive development. Ojulari assures partners of purpose-driven NNPLC in 2026, promises greater achievements. That is on page 6 of Sunday Tribune. And on page 5 of Sunday Tribune, 260 passengers, crew members escape death as plane makes emergency landing in Lagos. Still on the front page, we have FG ASU agreement fallout. FG to inject 30 billion naira stabilization fund in varsities to set up implementation committee. Stakeholders express doubts. That's on page 9. And finally, on the front page of Sunday Tribune, we have Tinubu signs comprehensive economic partnership agreement with UAE, returns to Nigeria from Abu Dhabi trip. That's on page 4 of the Sunday Tribune. Mr. Komolafe.
Yeah.
Over to you.
First, quickly, the horror story, from Kano is the very tragic one.
Very tragic.
Perhaps in the circumstance, all we could say is that the police, should do, the needful, by going after the perpetrators, and ensure that.
But based on their track record, how optimistic are you that that will happen?
I am optimistic, I mean, the police that's the police that we've got, So all we continue to do is to urge them, to perform their constitutional duty, which is to ensure, security and safety. So I'm very optimistic, and if you also reflect on recent stories, they've actually, made some, gains, in trying to, track down, criminals, and, bringing them to book, And maybe if it's time also to say that I'm afraid I don't agree with the bit that what PDP is doing that is there's nothing sad about it. And I also said, no, that is the way it should be.
Okay.
Originally, that is how parties used to be organized in Nigeria, until we come to this era in which we find a party, funded by one man or just a few people who are money men, When you belong to a party, you have an obligation, apart from your privilege of membership, you also have an obligation to contribute to the funding of the party. So in the past, members of the party, even in the rural areas, market women, artisans, used to contribute, money to running, their parties. So I think the PDP is working. It's moving in the right direction by saying that, membership should go along with obligation that that when you are a member of PDP, you should also have the obligation of funding the PDP, and I think that is how a party can could be sustained. Then the risk of the party not being hijacked by maybe one man who says that is the only one financing the party, or a group of people, or maybe you say maybe the governors. Are the one, no, it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Parties should not be financed only by governors or by just a few money men. Parties should be financed by members, of the party. So I think the PDP should be commended.
Yeah.
So it's a sharing story. It's not a sad story.
Okay.
Because that is the way to go. Yeah.
Okay, and really quickly before we leave, on the Nation newspaper, the main headline, new tax laws, 9 states lead domestication drive. That's Bayelsa, Anambra, Ekiti, Gombe, Kogi, Nasarawa, Plateau, Kwara, Zamfara. 27 others are yet to act. Moving to the other headline, Rivers chief judge receives Assembly's letters pile of documents against Fubara. Of course, this third impeachment round is still a discussion topic. And Super Eagles take bronze in the AFCON, beat Egypt 4-2 on penalties. Like I said, it's going to be discussed all weekend as a big source of pride. Unfortunately, that air landing story made it to this page as well. Why Qatar Airways made emergency landing in Lagos. That's a very scary bit of information, but thankfully everyone was safe. And then Ojulari, the NNPCL, is to reinforce the central role in Nigeria's economic mandate. And very bottom, police probe the killing of a mother, 6 children in Kano. Of course, that is the horror story we were talking about on the page of the Tribune. And that about wraps it up.
Okay.
What do you
maybe
briefly.
Briefly, yes. Okay, maybe let's just take the tax story. It's a good
big story.
Yeah, yes, it's a good the trend. Should continue with other states. That the states should domesticate, the tax laws. I think maybe if that is done, then you discover that the whole politics of tax, which has dominated the place in the whole, clear out. So it is important that other states, the remaining, how many states now? The remaining 27 or so states should follow in the footsteps of the states that have already, domesticated the tax law.
Well, Ombudsman, this day on Arise Media Group, Mr. Kayode Komolafe, thank you so much for joining us on the morning show.
Thank you very much. I'm pleased to be here. Yeah.
Well, that brings us to the end of the morning show today. Thank you for watching. Temitope Fagbemi.
And I'm Hawa Mukan from our entire team here in Lagos, Nigeria. Enjoy the rest of your morning and, of course, the rest of your day. Goodbye.